Good day, beautiful soul family, and welcome back to On Another Level. And today we're going to talk about narcissism. Okay? But of course it's going to be referenced from the Bible. You see, the Bible is very beautiful and it's very deep. And there is so much in the Bible. I mean, we can get so much answers from the Bible. So much counseling from the Bible. And so what's so interesting is I came to my lovely table, my little desk area, and I opened at the Bible and immediately came to Ezekiel. But we went to Ezekiel. And so I said, Divine Spirit, what is it really that you want me to know more about? So then, I closed my Bible, opened it back up, and it went to 2 Samuel, chapter 12. Now, in 2 Samuel, chapter 12, really 13, it comes to David's son. King David's son had many sons, had many children. And a matter of fact, he had 21 children. He had 4 wives. He had 21 children. And plus, because he did have concubines. And the Bible talks about 10 concubines, but more or less. Okay? But it for sure talks about 10 concubines. And there's a reason why it talked about the 10 concubines. But we will get to that. Really, this is about understanding things that go on beneath the surface. And I mean, I took great joy because it's been some time. You know, I'm a person that likes to break things down to a science. And it took some time to break some things down to a science, but this is definitely something that I am grateful that Divine Spirit is asking me to look into further, because as brought out in Ezekiel, there are certain things that are coming to an end. A lot of toxicities is coming to an end. And what's so interesting is about the energy of narcissism. No one is born, truly, no one is born narcissistic, but there are different energies found within our bloodlines that we ourselves must be accountable for. We've got to say, okay, as I'm living this life, I am accountable. I'm doing that in the work. And I'm accountable for certain things that I need to bring to, or I need to bring to an end. And so as I was looking at this, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, I didn't exactly, the Vice Spirit didn't exactly tell me that I was looking at a narcissistic person, but as I was doing my research, as I was learning, because as I'm reading the Bible, I was reading 2 Samuel chapter 13, it's talking about Absalom, but I was like, okay, the Vice Spirit was like, let's go a little deeper. So I went deeper. I went so deep that, you know, it takes two to tango, right? It takes two to do that dance. And so I was understanding about King David, understanding about King David's wives, understanding about King David, and there are so many things that King David had to bring forth a closure. You know, even though he was found to be a king, he was chosen to be a king. He still had different things that he had to sort out. And when it's not sorted out, like, if you don't handle certain energies, you bring it into a new relationship. And so you have to say, it's not so much about why am I always being found in relationships that are not good. It's about saying, what energy am I bringing into these relationships? If I'm not doing the inner work within myself, what am I carrying forth? Who am I attracting to myself? Why am I not attracting da-da-da, da-da-da? And as we understand the different things about even the relationships that we may find ourselves in, it's helping us to understand more about ourselves. Not just relationships, but also situations. And so here is about understanding narcissism. See, narcissism is found in a person, is found in situations, is found in societies. It's found in places of power. And as brought out in Ezekiel, these are different things that are coming to an end. But in understanding the fullness of a leap, we have to understand the step. And so this is about Absalom. So, King David, we know about King David, right? But King David, how he was married to Lady Maha. Because Absalom is the son of King David and Lady Maha. Now, Lady Maha is the daughter, princess, lady, you know, different terms of princess is goddess, queen, okay, duchess, dame, diva, liege, milady, monarch, queen, and ruler, okay? But she was the daughter of King Talmar. And Talmar was the king of Geshur. He was known as a neighboring king. He once had his allegiance with Saul, King Saul, but then when certain things took place, certain things happened, he switched his allegiance to King David. And upon switching his allegiance to King David, there was the marriage between King David and Maha, Lady Maha. Now what is so interesting is that Lady Maha, she is a non-Jewish woman. And it's about energy. You see, when you manifest, even when you set your intentions and you're utilizing the energy of love, then that is part of the ingredients. Okay, so it's like having a meal. You got your salt, you got your pepper, depending on what meal you're cooking, right? So let's say we're talking curries. There's so many different types of curries, right? So there's different types of curry. Let's say you're doing some curry, whatever. Okay, so one of the major ingredients is going to be curry. That is going to determine what type of food. If you're doing a barbecue, it may be barbecue sauce or barbecue type seasoning. You're not going to use a barbecue type seasoning and add curry to it, because then it's going to create something totally different. You understand what I'm saying? Really, not to say that it's not allowed, but there are certain different themes, okay? Flavors. And so what's so interesting is in the mixings of Absalom, you have to say, and Divine Spirit was asking me this question, well, this was arising, why was Absalom the way he was? And so I got deep into that. That was so interesting because when I looked, you know, I did the research in reference to how King David and Lady Maha was married. It was not based off of love. The ingredients of that brought forth Absalom. Okay? And so it was so interesting. I was like, you know what, really? Why did King David have so many wives? And then concubines as well. Why? Because it wasn't part of the law. So why was there a need to have so many wives? Back then it was something about, it wasn't about the law. It was outside of the law. Because it was outside of the law, it brought forth many headaches, many lower-based toxicities. I looked at something yesterday and I was talking about having control of the estate of your mind. When you have control of the estate of your mind, your body will follow suit. If there is no control of the estate of your mind, then your lower regions will be out of whack. Okay? And we can see that within King David. Though King David was very respected, a mighty warrior, but there were certain things, you know, he's not perfect and none of us is perfect. He had different things that he was dealing with. And it was an ingredient, a carrying on ingredient that was found throughout his children. Because here, I was looking, I don't want to go ahead, I don't want to jump ahead, but anyways, it's found in his children. Okay, so, and this is something that King David, though a mighty warrior, though someone that loved divine spirit very much, there were certain things that he didn't handle. And so it carried on. And then that's why in our lifetime, when we do that inner work, we have to really we have to be truthful with ourselves. What is something generational that I have the power to bring to an end? And when people don't choose to do that inner work, it gets carried on. Okay? And this we see is a known fact. Now back to Absalom. So Absalom, before he was even born, okay? So there is this thing called, the Jewish call it Shetafat. Let me, I wrote it down. Okay, Eshet Yefet Ta'ar. And Eshet Yefet Ta'ar is when a Israelite is a Jewish king, how it comes about the process of marrying a non-Jewish. Now what's so interesting is that, okay, dealing with Lady Maha, she was a non-Jewish woman. And there was formed an alliance between King Tamar, king of Geshur, and King David. Because he switched his alliance from King Saul to King David. And so what's so interesting is that King David found Lady Maha to be very beautiful. She was very beautiful. But it's so interesting because it doesn't say anywhere where Lady Maha was very attractive or attracted to King David. Now King David himself was very attractive as well. And sometimes some of that attraction is about notoriety, about respect, about being a warrior. So there are different things that made King David very attractive. And so, because when you think about it, she didn't come from a poor family. Her father was a king. Okay? And so, but anyways, how it came about. What is the process of Eshet Yefet Torah? The process of marriage between a Jewish king and a non-Jewish woman is that she has to be made undesirable. So one of the crowns of a woman is her hair. Okay, so she was very beautiful, but in order for her to be the wife, another wife, to King David, she had to make herself undesirable. She had to go through the process of having her hair shaved. Her nails were parted. And she had to dress in garments of drab. In every way, shape, or form. She had to come from being a beautiful woman to a woman that is undesirable in any way, shape, or form. So even though he found her to be desirable, in order for her to be his wife, she had to go through the process of not being desirable for a whole month. And really, a woman who may or may not have been attracted to King David, she had to go through that. And so because I'm an empath, you know, I feel how that can bring forth some disdain. It's the energies that are found within the mother, Maha. Right? So she had to have her hair cut off. A woman that is beautiful and attractive and a queen in her own right, a princess. Beautiful indeed. But she had to shave her head. She had to become desirable in order to be a wife of a king that she may or may not have been attracted to begin with. All for an alliance. Because here it says that he found her desirable. But that was just one-sided. Right? So, but anyways, they got married. And what's so interesting is that the rabbi, it says the rabbi did not look upon this as favorable. And it says because of this, it's going to bring forth, let me find it. I think this is so interesting. Oh my goodness, all this stuff popping up. Oh. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Okay, now. Anyways, I'm going off of memory because the computer does what it does. Anyways, because a lot of time. The thing about it is that the rabbis did not look at that in a favorable way. One, he was already married. And remember, this is not part of the law where you take on many wives. It's like, come on now, right? And then in order to do this, she had to shave her head. She had to par her nails. She had to dress in drab just so that she can get married to someone that she may or may not was attracted to. But anyways, so it was unfavorable, and the rabbi stated that this is, this is not going to bring forth, this is not going to be good in reference to your children, your sons, okay? And so it's brought out as the rabbi has stated, it did come about to where it wasn't a good ending. So we're dealing with the ingredients, it's all about, and when you're having a good meal, it's about the ingredients, that is the marriage of the ingredients that is put together within that meal to make it delicious, right? Also with love. And so when there is love, when there's no presence of love, instruments, or there could be a symphony of instruments where there's love added and there's the beauty of the music. But if there's no love added, and there's no attunement, then it's just a bunch of noise. And the same like manner, if there's no love in the meal and you're just throwing ingredients together and you really don't care, you're not going to have a good, delicious meal. And then carrying forth into this marriage, there was ingredients that was not good, the foundations of it. And so we think about narcissism, and it's really about what are the foundations that brings about a narcissistic person. And so Absalom is an example of a narcissistic person. But what are the foundations of it? What were the ingredients of it? And so as we see with the marriage of King David and Lady Maha, it was not good. What woman is going to feel good about shaving her head and making herself undesirable? Not just making herself undesirable, but the actions of the people that made her feel undesirable. Okay? And so, of course, King David didn't care about that. All he saw, all he was led by was his lower regions with what he saw, with who he saw. Okay? And so here we have Absalom. So, as mentioned, David had 21 children. Now we have Amnon, who was the firstborn. His character was, he had a low character driven by lust. So now you're seeing that the different energies that was going on was of lust. Where did they get this lust from? They got it from their father David. Okay? But it's not just from the father David. It may have been found, because the Vice Spirit is telling me, and found within the mother. Okay? So Here we have the firstborn, Amnon. Low character, driven by lust, became obsessed with his half-sister Tamar, raped her, and her brother, full brother Absalom, killed him. Okay, so then we have the second child is Daniel, from the mother Abigail, and then the third son is Absalom. Now here it says, notorious son, hot-tempered, power-hungry. He planned revenge for his sister Tamar because she was the one that was raped by Amnon, and plotted to steal his father's throne. He drew following in Jerusalem to help complete a coup. Absalom had sex with David's concubines, as brought out if you read 2 Samuel verses 13 and on. It was something that was not to be done. And he knowingly went into David's house of concubines, and he slept with all of them and made it known. So it was an all-right disrespect. He not only wanted, he formed a coup, and then he went to embarrass his father. He truly hated his father. Okay? And what's so interesting is that he was the third son. Now this is about rulership. This is about a successor. Absalom hated his father so much that he wanted, usually it's after the father, the king, has died, then there is a successor, right? But Absalom hated his father so much because of the ingredients of how he was produced, conceived. And it was hate within the mix. He was hungry for power. He was hot-tempered because all that rage, the rage that was going around in the environment, the rage that was going around within the mother of Maha, Lady Maha, as she had to shave her hair, as she had to for a whole month. And even though it was just for a whole month, you know how people are. Okay? They still carry on. They still murmur. So she had to go through all of that. And so through conception, she still had that energy within her, that rage. And so that is why it was found. He was notorious. He was hot-tempered, and he was power-hungry. He also was very attractive because his mother was very attractive and his father was very attractive. So we have a very attractive man who in the midst was still, he was hot-tempered. He was hungry for power, hungry for control, narcissistic. And he didn't just do things, he planned them out. Okay? But sadly enough, he had a horrible death. Okay? Now, in terms of a successor, the one that ended up taking over the kingship from King David was King Solomon. And so we understand the story about King Solomon. Before that, there was let me find it. So before that, I can't get to that. But before that, he had he had, like I said, he had many children. And when he first saw Bathsheba, we understand what happened with Bathsheba. If you don't understand, let me just quickly talk about it. So Bathsheba, she was already married. And she was married to a soldier of King David's army. And so King David, again, with his lust, he was very obsessed, really, with Bathsheba. One day he caught his eye on her, and he just fell in love. And so, but she was already married, and to someone who was a soldier that was in his army. And so they, found themselves both very attracted to one another, and so they both had a child. Now that was adultery, okay? And so divine spirit did not find favor in that. And so how they went about it was when Bathsheba's husband came back, he was very loyal to King David. And so they were trying to make it seem as though it was his child. So King David was trying to get Bathsheba and her husband to be together, but that wasn't working out. And so he put Bathsheba's husband in the front line so that he can be killed, so that he will be able to marry Bathsheba. And you see how toxic that is. Okay, here we're dealing with a king who in himself had narcissism. Okay, he did not utilize in reference to lust. He did not make the right decisions. Okay, so we see how he was struggling with this. Okay, and even though he was very sorrowful because the child of King David and Bathsheba did not make it to full term, and he was fasting and praying and asking God to please let this baby carry to full term, but it didn't happen. And after he was humbling himself and fasting, wouldn't eat, wouldn't drink, when the child was born, and was born but was not alive, okay, he stopped. But there are certain things that didn't stop, okay? And so there are because certain things didn't stop, it was still found, that energy was still found in the mixings of Absalom and the other children. He was still going through this because low character was, in his firstborn was Amnon, low character driven by lust. See, you judge the tree by its fruits. Okay? He was King David's a mighty man he was a mighty warrior. But as mentioned, there are certain things that needed to be resolved or solved. I can't stand resolved, but solved, and it did not. And so it got carried on to Absalom. So, you know, back then, and hopefully still now, people, when they name their children, it's got meaning to it, or it's supposed to have meaning, and maybe they're going further and further away from that. But when I looked up the meaning of Absalom, King David named their son Absalom, and it's supposed to be the father of peace. Now, what's so interesting is that Shalom means peace. Ab means away. So we see that even though it states that Absalom, see, Abba is father, okay, and Shalom is peace, right? But here the word is the name is Absalom, not Abba Shalom, Absalom. So Ab means away, and Shalom is supposed to be Shalom, and that means peace. But we see here in the actions, the energy of the name it coincides with how Absalom was, because he did not have peace. He was not trying to bring peace. He was trying to bring discord, and not trying to, but in a lot of ways he did bring discord. As mentioned, he's a hot-tempered and power-hungry person. He brought forth a coup in Jerusalem to take over the throne from his father. Okay, he did not want to go through the proper channels. All right, because he wanted to make sure that he was the next one in line. He was very attractive, so he used his looks, he used his prestige, and people gobbled it all up. So yes, he was, even though his name was Absalom and it was supposed to be father of peace, he did not bring forth peace. He did not bring forth peace because he did not have peace within him. He was very narcissistic. Absalom had sex with David's concubines and made it known. He was not a person to bring forth peace. Not at all. And so this is what I have. But, you know, also it talks about the ending. Now, what's so interesting is that as I mentioned, Absalom died a very horrible death. Okay? Absalom had 3 sons, and they all died before him. And even though Absalom was coming against David, he still had a love for his children. It says, when the tidings of the result of the battling were brought to David, as he sat impatiently at the gate of Mahanaim, and he was told that Absalom had been slain, he gave way to bitter lamentation. "O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would God I had died for thee. O Absalom, my son, my son." In many pictures it shows how he died. He died with his hair being caught up. He was very handsome, but his hair was caught up in a tree. His hair was caught up in a tree. How he died. Because he wanted to be seen by many. And so what's so interesting is because all he did caused his death. Here it says, Absalom at length marched out against his father, whose army under the command of Joab he encountered on the borders of the forest of Ephraim. 20,000 of Absalom's army. 20,000 of Absalom's army. Wow, that's a lot of people. Okay, he formed a coup. Were slain in that fatal battle, and the rest fled. Absalom fled on a swift mule. But his long flowing hair, or more probably his head, was caught in a bough of an oak, and there he was left suspended till Joab came up and pierced him through with 3 darts. His body was then taken down and cast into a pit dug in the forest, and a heap of stones was raised over his grave. When the tidings of the result of the battle were brought to David, he sat impatiently at the gate. And then that's what he said. And so what's so interesting, beautiful soul family, is that how he died was very embarrassing. Here we have a narcissistic person who was brought to an end. It didn't matter how much people he cooed together. It didn't matter how much, what he did. He slept with. I mean, he was just so nasty and disgusting about it. It didn't matter. Because in the end, he died. And not a death where it was not where everyone can see, but it was where everyone could see. And so it's brought out in Ezekiel. It talks about how people who are blinded in their own ways come to an end. So then, as I brought out earlier, it talks about narcissism. It's not just, it's the energy of narcissism. It's found in not just a person. It's not just found in a group of people. It's found in societies. It's found in places of power. And because of this narcissistic energy, they all are brought down to their bitter end. So thank you so much, beautiful soul family. This has been very interesting. It's about understanding narcissism, the energy of narcissism. What are the ingredients that brings it about in a person? And why things of lust, why manifestation should not be with the ingredients of lust. Because they come to a bitter end. But when you are manifesting with the ingredients of love, then it's truly infinite and long-lasting. Have a beautiful and wonderful day. Namaste.